in architecture, you gotta be really detail based. Like every little detail matters. But fashion, I don't think it just has to be clothes. Like fashion and design and architecture, it's all design at the end of the day. So they're gonna intertwine at some point.
Imagine standing on the crossroads of two enthralling worlds, where the drama of fashion expression meets the grandeur of modern architectural form. Within this intersection, the renowned architect Zaha Hadid explored her identity with unique outfits and flourishes to her personality while she challenged spatial ideas in award-winning designs. Here also, the trained architect Virgil Abloh emerged as a fashion icon, creating an iconic brand, later serving Louis Vuitton with new ideas on space and decor. This crossroad was reached by architectural designer Japheth Chambers, who emerged as a visionary, fearlessly venturing into the vibrant world of fashion in the heart of New York City. Japheth skillfully introduced a distinctive line of clothing with the MeasureLife brand, with the positive slogan, "Love Conquers All." Join us in this captivating episode of Architecture Beyond as the architecture and fashion entrepreneur recounts his remarkable journey.
Hello and welcome to Architecture Beyond. I'm your host, Brandon Aaron Gibbs, founder of the course platform Iamthestudio and director of Studio Motion Form. Architecture Beyond is an exciting new podcast about life after architecture and the stories of those taking their design and creativity gifts to impact the world beyond the studio. This is our first series of episodes, so I hope you enjoy our guests and stories. Be sure to listen to the end for your opportunity of connecting with Architecture Beyond. Hello and welcome. This is Brandon Gibbs, your host, and today I'm going to be interviewing Japheth Chambers, who is the architect and also the founder of Melly, or MeasureLife brand. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Brandon. I'm glad to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and sort of how you got started with fashion and architecture?
As Brandon said already, my name is Japheth Chambers, also known as Melly. I am a New York native, raised in Brooklyn and Queens. So fashion, it's a big thing in New York. Growing up, my father, he's a contractor, carpenter. He does a lot of different construction, and I've done a lot of jobs with him. So that kind of steered me towards getting a degree in architecture. I graduated from SUNY Delhi with my bachelor's in architecture. And how I got into the fashion world, it's always been a thought in my head since like middle school to start my own brand. But it didn't really get started until after I graduated college, where I had more time on my hands, more funds, and that's that.
But you're in the environment of architecture and fashion, so that helped out. That's pretty cool.
My environment molded me, just like anyone else. Your environment molds you.
Did you start off with fashion more, or where did you make the transition from architect to fashion entrepreneur?
I started with architecture. So fashion didn't really come about until the pandemic 2020. But I started with architecture. Like I said, I went to school for architecture. But also fashion in New York, you see all types of different styles. You see people dressing up in many different ways. You see a lot of different flavors, a lot of different styles. And so it's always been in the back of my head. And throughout middle school and high school, it was a lot of different clothes and brands that I wanted. But because of my family's finances, we weren't broke, but we weren't rich either. Like we were just getting by. We were pretty much middle class. So I wasn't able to get all of the brands that I wanted to wear. So that's kind of where fashion came about. I just thought to myself, why not make the clothes that I wanted when I was younger? So that's where I made the transition from being just an architect to fashion designer and architect.
Can you expand when this started? Was it like when you were a student, or like what was that genesis sort of story? When did MeasureLife become the brand?
I guess you could say in college, because I actually look back recently into some of my college notebooks where I would take notes and do some of my homework. And I saw some sketches that said Measure Life, or it's just me trying to come up with a logo or come up with a name. And there were a few different names before Measure Life, but I'm I don't know. I guess the transition wasn't just one day to another. It was more so premeditated. I was thinking about it for a while, and I was kind of preparing myself for that transition. And just whenever the time felt right, like I said, during the pandemic, a time where everyone was kind of forced to just do something new, forced to figure things out, I was like, all right, pandemic, this is the perfect time to start. I got nothing but time on my hands. I was fortunate enough to have a good job to be able to fund it, and that's kind of where it came about. So I guess I'd say 2020.
So when people are inside a little bit, they're able to connect with something online. Um, I guess what does Measure Life stand for? Like I've heard you, so you've had a couple events recently, even like have you been like sort of evolving? What where did it sort of start as in meaning, and where is it now?
Measure Life, it comes from my architectural background and just my spiritual background. So spiritually, I grew up in a family that goes to church. My father, he's a pastor. My mom, she's heavy on spirituality. So I've always grown up knowing that there's a higher power and knowing that I need that higher power to stay grounded. I gotta be humble. I gotta give grace. I gotta be humble. I gotta give grace. I gotta spread love. So that's where the life part comes from. And clearly, measure, that's the architectural background. So I just put the two together, measure life. But to sum measure life up, I usually tell people it just means to live life with purpose. Everything that you do, it has to be intentional. Don't do anything because you see someone else doing it. Don't envy anything that anyone else has. Just do things because you want to do it, because you love it, and make sure that you lead with love and that you lead with love.
That's cool. That's cool. What has been the response to that idea, the audiences or followers?
I've been getting nothing but positive feedback, fortunately. I don't know if it's just people trying to make me feel good, but it seems like it's pretty genuine. I get a lot of people telling me, like, yo, it seems like I've had people tell me, yo, it seems like you're genuinely doing this because you love it, not because you're doing it for the money, not because you just want to be cool. Like people can tell that I put my time and energy into everything that I do as far as the brand. Well, in general, really.
How did your background in architecture influence your approach to fashion design?
In school, we were taught to use a lot of different programs, and in architecture, you got to be really detail based. Like every little detail matters. If you mess one thing up, that could mess the whole design or the whole building up. You could potentially harm some people. So I guess that transitions over to fashion because I know that the quality of the garment matters, what's on the garment matters, and I pay a lot of attention to that because I don't want to put out anything into the world that's going to give off bad energy. I don't want to harm anyone. And most people don't think clothes can harm anyone, but everything that you do matters down to what you listen to what you eat, to even what you wear. So I guess I'm a fashion architect, or like I mean that is what I am, but in the fashion world I'm also an architect because I'm designing every bit and every little part of the garment.
So your harm approach is something that sort of protects, like fashion, like it covers, like a shelter. Can you expand upon that sort of harm? Like where are you seeing that affect fashion?
So like this piece right here, this piece says live slow, live to grow.
Okay.
My intention behind that was to let people understand that everything doesn't have to be so fast paced. We don't have to grow up so fast. So how clothes protects you, I feel like what you have on you, as long along with what you put in you and what you take in, what you hear, what you look at, it plays a huge role in how you live your life. So if you're wearing something positive, it's like armor. It's like body armor. The armor is made to protect you. If you're wearing armor made of linen, that's not going to do anything for you. But if you're wearing armor made of metal, you're going to be well protected. So I feel like it's the same thing as far as what's on the clothes. So nowadays, you might see a lot of different brands putting skulls and death, and because they say sex and drugs sells, but I don't really like to promote that because I feel like that's just damaging your spirit, that's damaging your soul. So everything I do, everything I put on my clothes, it has to be positive.
Can you describe the process of starting your own fashion brand from scratch? How much did you like factor in influence, or maybe what's popular versus let me try something new?
Starting a brand from scratch is pretty tough because, like you said, you have to think about what other people want. You also got to think about what you want, but you don't want to only tailor to what other people want because then you're not going to be expressing your true creativity. So it was kind of tough in the beginning because I didn't really know which route I wanted to go. I even thought about selling, like I said earlier, sex, money, and drugs, and all of that, and just feeding into the world. But I'm like, that's not me. So starting off, it was tough, and it still is tough because you have to push it out enough for people to feed into the image that you're trying to portray. You got to get people to understand what you're trying to get across. So it's just a lot of pushing it out, a lot of consistency, a lot of I don't even know how to really explain it, but because I'm still going through the process, but it's just a lot of repetition. You got to continue doing the same thing over and over again. Are you more so asking though, like how I'm getting the brand out, or how it got started? Like how do I start it?
Well, just in general, it's like that origin story is something that some people right now might have an idea, but like they don't know what to do with it next. Like, or maybe they have a few ideas, but that path is like it can get frustrating really easy. So, like if you were seeing sort of someone starting, like what would they do? What would be that first step from scratch? Like, boom, I want to do some fashion, or I want to do this particular item. What's important for that person? Like, because it sounds like you've navigated that really well, and so how would you communicate that?
It's crazy because I remember one time on the train, I ran into this guy named Peter J. He has his own clothing brand and his own community as well. And I told him I wanted to start a brand, and he asked me, "Who are you trying to reach out to?" And my answer was so broad. I said, "I'm trying to reach out to people like me." And he's like, "Well, who's people like you?" I'm like, "I don't know, people that like clothes, people that like cool stuff, people that are swaggy, I guess." And he's like, "Nah, you gotta narrow it down to the specifics. Like, oh, you want to reach out to people that like the color green, or that live in Brooklyn, that skateboard." I'm just naming random things, but you got to narrow it down before you can start making clothes, because no one's ever going to be able to reach each and every single individual in the world. Like even Polo and all these well-known brands, they don't reach out to every single person in the world. Like they know their target audience. So I feel like knowing your target audience is one of the things you have to figure out in the beginning. Because getting a screen printer and putting something on a garment, that anybody can do that. But knowing who your target audience is, that's kind of something tough to figure out.
I have a little bit of experience sort of fashion design, like from my junior achievement in high school. I was like the vice president of marketing and sort of help us figure out which way to go. And I was like emphasizing a particular logo and brand. And like we did like the best in the school, but it was like that. It was that place of it's so weird where a logo and an idea can start like such a sort of movement, such a connection. But the idea is where do you go from like that first product as well? Like, so what was your first major project that resonated with people, and where did you connect after that?
One of my first products that really resonated with people was, I think it might have been my first release ever. Honestly, it was these regular heavyweight cotton hoodies, and on the back it said, "Love conquers all. It's the strongest force ever." And then the logo, or the graphic, it was like tree branches in the shape of a heart, but I kind of like played with it on Illustrator and Photoshop to make it look cool. Added some nice colors, and I think people resonated with that so much because, like I said earlier, a lot of brands don't promote love and positivity. So when they seen when they saw the graphic, it was cool. When they saw the word on it, it was positive. So they're like, "Yo, you can have a positive message and still look cool while wearing it." And I guess that's what resonated with people. So now I try to my collections. I try to do them based on a quote. So the first one was "Love Conquers All," and I did two collections with that. The second one was a hoodie. It said "Love Conquers All" on the front, BCG print, and then I hand cut and sewn like a flared sleeve on each of the sleeves. People like that one too. And now this is my newest one, "Live Slow, Live to Grow." So
That's really cool. And I like orange. Orange is one of my favorite colors. It's a great color. Great combination.
You're listening to Architecture Beyond, an exciting new podcast about life after architecture and the stories of those taking their gifts to impact the world beyond the studio. We are speaking with Japheth Chambers about the story of his fashion brand MeasureLife, developed in New York City, while beginning his journey in architecture, and the secrets to balancing the creative flows in both. This podcast is produced by Iamthestudio, a premium resource for training architecture and design professionals in the top industry software. If you need help with learning design software and techniques to a professional level, please follow the link on our page.
What are some challenges that you faced in your early days, and how did you overcome them?
one, of course, finances, because I'm not rich. Wasn't handed no silver spoon. I don't come from a rich family, so being able to afford all the inventory and being able to get these ads out and market your stuff is that's one of the biggest issues. But aside from that, I would say just getting the message out to people and getting them to follow along, because nowadays we live in a world where people are followers. So social media, whatever social media deems to be popular or hot at the moment, that's what people like to follow. So it's hard to get past that boundary. It's hard to get people to stop looking at what's hot right now and for them to look at me. But I guess that just comes with consistency, because I'm on my third year now, and when people ask me how I'm doing, they might, from the outside in, it might look really good, but I always just tell people, "Yo, it's growing slowly but surely." Why? Because I'm consistent.
Yeah, it's like have you heard of Damon John's program? He's the power of broke, or like if you have too much, sometimes your motivation drops out. But if you have that drive, that push, sometimes that actually that can be a power, secret power.
Right. You got to use your weaknesses and turn into a strength.
Absolutely. What is your influences that you would sort of resonate with now, I guess, as a fashion entrepreneur slash architect? Because there's a lot of architects who've delved into fashion, either at some point, some like still do, like even um, I know for sure that like Zaha Hadid, she did like a shoe with Pharrell, or maybe there's some, there's that connection. Um, what are some that influence you?
I try to stay away from the whole competition thing, because a lot of people got to realize, yo, like people like Virgil, he's been in the game for 10 plus years, but a lot of people don't know that Virgil, I think he went to school for architecture. So when I heard that,
He got his masters.
right, even better. I'm thinking about going for mine, but like I said, money. But when I heard that Virgil went to school for architecture, that kind of gave me the push even more to keep going with fashion, because there was a point in my life where I was debating and I thought that I had to choose between fashion and architecture because both are pretty time consuming careers. But I realized that it's all about time management. But to give another person, David Aj, he mainly does architecture. Like you might not see much fashion from him, but I was doing some research on him and I saw that he designed Stephen Curry's shoe, and I'm like, wow, that's crazy.
David Aj and NBA. That's cool.
Right, he designed Stephen Curry's shoe, and I'm like, wow. Like just because you're an architect, you don't have to limit yourself to just buildings. You can always design anything. Like it can even be furniture, and that's something I would like to venture out to somewhere down the line as well.
So you're still in the architecture world as well as fashion world. How is it like sort of navigating both of those and priorities and so on?
It's tough. It's honestly one of the toughest things I've done and still getting used to, because if you're in the architecture world, you know that 9 times out of 10 you're not just working 9 to 5 every day. It may be 9 to 6, it may be 9 to 7. You might have to come in early. Like it's not just 9 to 5. So being able to do that and then go home and work on my brand is it's definitely a learning curve. So time management has been on the top of my list for the last year or so, and I believe I'm getting it. I'm starting to get the hang of it. It's really just about um, controlling your energy and going into everything with a positive mindset. Because if I finish my 9 to 5 and then I go home like, damn, I'm tired. I don't even want to do this anymore. Like I'm already messing myself up. But if fashion is really a passion of mine, I'm gonna go home like, all right, I can't wait to do this. And then whenever I go to sleep, that's when I go to sleep. So yeah, time management is tough, but things got to get done.
You're developing both your career. You're even going toward being licensed as well as going toward like new levels as a fashion entrepreneur. So I think that's a great goal. I think definitely if you make yourself just do nothing, it's going to be hard. But if you have like these goals and challenges, I think they'll help each other on. Like
Hmm.
absolutely. So I guess in what ways do you see architecture and fashion design intersecting? Maybe even now and in the future.
I feel like the two can intersect in many ways. One, through furniture. So fashion, I don't think it just has to be clothes. Like fashion and design and architecture, it's all design at the end of the day. So they're gonna intertwine at some point. So I do see myself going into the fashion world, or I mean into the furniture world, or even just like design designing my own, I guess, style of architecture. So I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of at an advantage because I'm into fashion and design, because I'm seeing all different types of styles, and somewhere or another I can incorporate it. Like I could I don't really know how to explain it because I haven't done it yet, but as time goes, I know that it's an advantage. I know I'm gonna be able to incorporate it in one way or another.
So if you were designing a kitchen, like you were designing that hoodie, like how would you? Because I liked what you said. You said that the fashion it would influence it. What's the easiest way you would look at fashion affecting like that fashion minds? Because the idea, some people with fashion, yes, they're designing a chair. But some are designing, um, maybe a wedding gown. But how would you look at it differently?
I think um so I get what you're asking. So I guess so in fashion, when you're designing, you can design for the mass. You can just make a hoodie design and sell it 100 times. But oftentimes people make one-of-one pieces. So when making one-of-one pieces, I correlate that directly to the question that you're asking. I guess redesigning a kitchen or a bedroom or a house for one specific person. So when making that one-of-one piece, you gotta do your research and think about what that specific person likes to wear, what they might look good in, how they might wear it, and things that you can add in addition to the piece to make it fit them specifically, like accessories or the sneakers. So I guess that relates directly to architecture because when designing that kitchen, you want to think about how this person likes to cook, where they like to cook. Do they like their sink across from the stove? Like just random little stuff. And I guess being a fashion designer will make me think more about a specific person rather than just thinking, oh, I want to get this design across because it's a nice design. And oftentimes I feel like in architecture, like we're supposed to be thinking of the people, but I feel like people don't do that as much. They're more so just focused on getting this one design across, and they're not thinking about, oh, how is this going to affect this one person, or how they might like it, how might it last in the long run, or just the use of it, the use of the space.
And that's very insightful for how that would connect that. What would you have? What would you have as advice to an architect pondering fashion or architecture?
I'd say go for it. Like we're at an advantage because we're already designers. So certain things that you design, they're gonna be better than average. Like most people, they just come up with a logo, they go on Fiverr, get a logo done, and slap it on a shirt. But as an architect, we're gonna think about, oh, this might look better on the left shoulder because it's in this shape, or this color might look better with this fabric. Just having that designer mentality, you're already at an advantage. So I say go for it, but not only just go for it with full intention. Go into it with purpose. Don't just do it because it's something you want to do. Like, I mean, even that, we should all experiment in our lives, but if you're gonna go in full time, make sure it's something that you love. Make sure it's something you're passionate about. And make sure you're giving it your all. Give your best effort.
That's cool. What's next for MeasureLife? Like, what things you have on tap, and where can people find you?
Well, first you can find me on Instagram, measure.life. Once again, on Instagram at measure.life, and then also have a website. It's MeasureLife.us. Once again, MeasureLife.us. But to answer your question, what's coming for MeasureLife? MeasureLife, it is a fashion brand, but I also want it to be more of a community, more of an environment. So when people hear MeasureLife, I want them to know that they are loved. Like there is someone out there that loves them. There is somewhere that they can go to feel safe. That's as far as the brand. As far as fashion, I've got some summer stuff coming, nice graphic tees, some nice shorts. In the fall, I'm gonna have some nice sweatsuits. It's a lot of different stuff coming out. You just gotta follow us and stay tuned.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Japheth. I think you have an awesome brand. I think audience definitely go and check out MeasureLife, order and check out some things that'll make your fashion and health just be at the top level. So thank you, Japheth, for joining us today and sharing about your brand.
Yes, once again, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure being here, and I'm looking forward to seeing this, man. Check us out, MeasureLife. We got a lot of fly stuff. Nice signature hat here. Make your life better. MeasureLife.
Awesome.
It was motivating hearing the insights into the world of fashion and design from architectural designer and fashion entrepreneur Japheth Chambers. His brand MeasureLife has made strides and is influencing a generation for positivity and creative expression. You can find more about the appealing designs of the MeasureLife brand at measurelife.us. If you are interested in learning more about the newest design software and techniques, visit our sponsor Iamthestudio at iamthestudio.com and sign up with our newsletter Design Insights Weekly.
In the next episode of Architecture Beyond, we will be discussing the emerging solutions for improving the architecture industry through sustainable design with sustainability consultant and thought leader Blake Jackson. Be sure to check it out.
Architecture Beyond is an exciting new podcast about life after architecture and the stories of those taking their gifts to impact the world beyond the studio. This is our first series of episodes, and we're interested in your feedback. Are there some topics you would like to hear, or are you interested in being a guest? Go to iamthestudio.com and click on Arch Beyond in the menu for more information.
This has been Brandon and the Architecture Beyond crew. Catch you in the next episode.